Hi, this is Dave O'Mara, and this is 5 by 5 for Wednesday, May 11th, 2005. Today I'm going to continue with The Death of the Homunculus, The Job. In the spring semester of 1981, I believe, I was working as a third shift security guard at Presidential Plaza, an apartment complex in downtown Syracuse. I say spring semester, even though that job had nothing whatsoever to do with the academic world. As with all tragedies, the real tragedy of my life is an irony of fate. I reject life because it is a prison sentence. I reject dreams as being a vulgar form of escape. Yet I live the most sordid and ordinary in real projects is intense, and it's something I call the death of the homunculus. And by this, I'm referring to a particular moment in my life that occurred maybe, I'm not exactly sure when it was, although I remember the moment quite clearly, but it was an interchangeable moment. It could have happened on one of many evenings, and but it happened on one of those evenings, and I remember the time and place quite
How
clearly.
could they be so rational, so focused, such clever game players when it came to their own immediate self-interest? Didn't such focus, such clarity mean that they were faking? And if they were faking, didn't that mean that their problem was all in their head,
Really upscale,
or
and
functional, as
in Jefferson Tower there was still an expensive Italian restaurant in the basement whose claim to fame was that Frank Sinatra would stop there after he performed in town. Whether or not that was true, it certainly liked to give that impression. It was the kind of place frequented by men who drove Cadillacs and women who wore minks. But by the early 80s, Presidential Plaza as a whole was getting to be on hard times. The rents had declined to maybe two-thirds or three-quarters of the peak level.
But the scene that I'm interested in, when we're talking about like the daringness of Tarkovsky's style, is this long, incredible scene after this no longer young officer. He was young in the movie that he shows the hero and the rubbish tip of a soul that others only visit in their sleep, and that semblance of death through which they snore, in that calm state. Actually, I've got to read that sentence again. That shameful flight into myself, the cowardice mistaken for life, the rubbish tip of a soul that others only visit in their sleep, in that semblance of death.
There I was, sitting in the lobby, reading and writing as best I could. Why I got the job? Well, I had been in the graduate program in creative writing at Syracuse University, and probably, without going into a great amount of details on it, something was wrong with the school or my relationship with the creative writing business, by which I mean the institutionalized system of fiction writers and poets getting jobs teaching in English departments and using their publications and
Intellectual problem.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
The
But
job was
basically,
at
any young writer
Presidential
who takes
Plaza
a job
in
as a
Syracuse. I
third
was
shift
the third shift security guard, having taken some time off from graduate school at the time. There was an article that I read in the New Yorker which posed certain problems to me at that time. There was an incident with a crazy person on a Thursday night, the homunculus, the little person up there watching to the cameras of the eyes and listening through the stereo system of the ears, the ghost in the organic machine, the pilot of the ship. And this homunculus was not only in my head, but in my entire worldview up until that moment. Growing up in the Catholic schools, I guess I'd been inculcated with the idea of the soul departed, the body. Wife who had committed suicide 10 years earlier. And I didn't really get this almost, this meditation on what does it mean to love somebody, and because the first time he discovers this wife in his cabin, unconstrained by any academic discipline or reading list of any sort, and it was one article that I read on one of those nights, on one of the nights when I had had enough sleep, and my mind was alive, and I was unconstrained by any categories of thought. I read an article that set in motion the problem that led to the death of the homunculus. And I'll continue that in the next piece.